everybody, it's Lester from Cannabis Wiki. I'm here with AessenseGrows. Phil's going to stand and tell us a little bit about AessenseGrows, the mission, and what they're doing for the industry. Phil, take it away, my friend.
AessenseGrows is a precision aeroponics company. We're based in Silicon Valley in California. We ship globally from China for things we manufacture there. Design and development's all in California. Our focus is on sensor-based control environments and software to make sure we can grow really efficient cannabis. In the case of this tall machine behind us here, this is called the AEtrium 2.1 Smart Farm. That's for cloning and vegging, so the early nursery stages of cannabis. But a plant you would typically drop in here 10 to 12 days, you'd have a fully rooted clone. At that point, you can, after producing 4,000, 5,000 clones in a machine like this, you can either top them here and have them veg in this environment, or you could pick them right up and walk over and drop them and veg them in a bloom environment there. But cloning is really effective, 99, 100% yield, all software controlled fertigation. So everything is managed on an automated basis where the software lets you set your grow recipe and then deliver exactly the same process over and over again. So that sort of precision and confidence that you know that's taken care of frees up your time to focus on the rest of your grow operation and making sure you're getting the best yields out of your plants possible.
So it's not just efficient for the plants and the business, but it's also efficient for the employees.
Yeah, and give them a little peace of mind too, because you can, take your weekend off and take time off and know that everything is operating right on spec. And if there is any issue, it's going to wirelessly notify you, by the way, you need to go back to this room because either a water pump is giving a little pressure sensor or a nutrient bottle might need some refilling or whatever it might be. But that's really kind of the basics are taken care of. When you come back on Monday, everything's perfect the way it was when we left it.
Right.
So,
which is key.
Yeah, it's key for confidence, it's key for yields, it's key for productivity. So it frees up time for you to focus on the plants. And so it's really all about getting great yielding, really healthy looking plants. And when you see, and unfortunately we don't have live plants in this system, but if you come to Las Vegas, the next time they have this show, we will have live plants across the board, and we'll be growing, irrigating right there on the floor. This stuff we left on the pallets, but when we get to Vegas, everything is bolted up, piped up, and as soon as they give you water and irrigation, we'll be growing plants, and everybody can kind of see them, touch them, feel them. It's really nice to
get a real idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
So from this stage, what is the next stage?
So the next stage from cloning and vegging your nursery operations, then you move over to bloom, and so we'll move over there and we'll talk about that.
Excellent. So Phil, tell us a little more about the AEtrium 4.
So once we've gone through the cloning and vegging, the nursery stages, you'd have that going in operation all the time. And the objective is really keep your bloom rooms in full production. So you want to keep them loaded with new veg plants every time you need to harvest and replant. So a typical turn cycle, once you've got plants in here, you cut roots, hang the plants, throw the root ball away, spray it on the tubs. And basically as soon as the pH normalizes, you're ready to get right back into production. So you'll see a typical bloom room production turn be 1 to 2 days in a turn cycle. That allows you to get 6 harvests a year in full production out of your bloom rooms. So that really ups your yield a lot.
Right.
You start with a basic tray. You'd have a neoprene sleeve you'd have around your clone or your veg plant. You'd veg that over on the far side. You'd then bring it over here, and you'd have your tray of units. You'd basically just lift those, drop them right in, and that's your transfer process for blooming. At that point, you'd change the light cycle with whatever your lighting system is, and you'd go from there. A lot of different configurations, very easy modular system, so you can either have flat trays, you can add a midstream gantry like this, you can have a lattice net to support your plants, you can also have a full-scale gantry where you drop lights from there. The newest light we've got in our environment is what we call the AErix light. This light is a 1600 micromole output, 1000 ppfd at the surface of your canopy. Great frequency spectrum, exactly what you want to see in cannabis for really intense bloom light. Right. The more intense that light is, the better the bud yield. You're going to get these massive colas, and the harvest cycle is very easy with the system as well, as we've talked about. The new lights are very thin in nature, which also gives you a nice roadmap to start looking at stacking and getting higher densities environments as well.
Okay. So does the lighting have any effect on the temperature?
Certainly lighting has effect on temperature, but HPS lighting is higher wattage, so higher heat dissipation.
Okay.
So that's going to have a much bigger impact on temperature if you choose to use high pressure sodium HPS lights. Moving to LED lights, you're going to use about half the energy, but get the same kind of intensity output or higher, frankly, nowadays. So the newer LED lights have a better spectrum, put out great intensity, and you'll see many competing bands out, but frankly, I'd say between the type of the line Fluence lights, the Spider Plus,
right,
our Eric's lights, the Gavita latest release that's out, those lines are pretty good intensity lights, and I think you'll find they're very competitive and very equal. So we're agnostic to lights. We're happy to sell our lights, but we're delighted to work with any vendor's lights in the system, and we can control those as part of the Guardian Grow Manager, which is the next thing I'll talk to you about.
Nice. Well, let's go on and look at that.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit more about this, Phil.
So from a nutrition standpoint, we really can start out with sort of the modular nutrition that you can set up for yourself. In general, we start out with N, P, K, and then a Cal Magic, trace elements, boron, magnesium, iron, things like that. But you can pretty much mix any kind of recipe you'd like to through your fertilization, and your irrigation cycle for your plants. Can't quite see it, but on this side we've got pH up and pH down, acid and basic.
Okay.
And then hydrogen peroxide or a chlorine mix for your cleaning in a system to keep it spick and span and perfectly clean all the time. All of that is managed through the Guardian Grow Manager system. And so the Guardian has a dashboard to see everything that's in the environment. Here we're showing the actual grow recipe with a plan for flowering and cannabis. And it starts with early veg, begin flower, early flower, mid bloom, late bloom, ripen and flush. You can set these recipe changes literally one day at a time if you wanted to have that precision. But typically from a grow cycle, about once a week you'd want to shift your recipe depending upon whether you're trying to get cellular buildup and growth and structure in the plants, or you really want to focus on bloom yields, bloom weight, fattening up, and then flushing before you clean and harvest. So that allows you to...
That's a big deal.
Oh, everything is there. So all of your target nutrition in terms of a target parts per million, your high and low alarm levels, and your emergency levels, all are tied to to-do lists and notifications that go back to who your operator is. So you can assign a machine, a room, a facility to different people in your organization, and these messages will go to that person's phone, cell phone, tablet, anything that's internet connected,
right,
either as an SMS message or an email. And that to-do list is saying you need to go to this room and deal with this issue at this machine. And it will tell you as simple as go to column 3 in row 2 of room 6 and replace jug number 2, whatever
right,
it might be like that. So that to-do list, once they actually get that notification, they process that and action it, that's logged into the environment. All that data is there in the environment. So you can actually see an entire grow cycle, what you did step by step, what was most effective about that, what you might be able to improve about that, and then you can start building it into the workflow of your business and how you manage your grow facility and grow
right,
operations. So when you think of something like, something as simple as, okay, they clean the room by mopping the floor. Did they use a Clorox mix of some kind when they did that? If they do this repeatedly, you create a custom form, and you in that form have an input field that says, how much Clorox did you use when you mopped the floor?
Wow.
They enter say I used a quart, a pint, 6 ounces. Then you've got this logged schedule of everything operationally that was done in your facility over time, and now you can start to tune the operation and improve your efficiency in ways that people probably didn't think about, we didn't think about, and you can now extend the system. So you've got management of your environment, management of your lighting cycles, on and off, soft start. You've got managing of your air environment with air temp sensors, CO2 management, humidity, all the things you'd want to do of turning on and off your dehues, whatever it might be in the environment, it's all part of your recipe. And now you can deploy that recipe to a room, or you can deploy it to multiple rooms, or you can deploy it to a facility or multiple facilities across geographic locations, and all have access to that through your site map, location by location. The advantage of that is now you know very consistent precision. I know my recipe will be exactly the same. Now you can move toward probably the medical cannabis space, and you can start thinking about, I want to have certain CBD profiles in the output grow of my different strains. So you have the same strains in a room, or different rows in the same room, and you run a slightly different recipe on each row. You change one variable, get your harvest level, do your harvest, compare those two side by side, and now you go, that's a better recipe. That'll be my baseline recipe now. So iteratively, you can build your own intellectual property and know that that's the best yield possible. So Essence is about the whole process, the entire facility, helping you manage that process, manage your labor resources, kind of manage your grow process, your grow operations, and then your go-to-market cycle, and just kind of help you along the way.
Essence is like a culinary chef, allowing you to make many recipes and constantly sticking to a good form.
And it's your recipe, right? So that intellectual property becomes your content, your ability to then merchandise that and resource it to other AessenseGrows customers. And I've got a great process strain for this yield. They've got one for something else. So there's a nice teamwork thing going on.
Definitely. I find that it has benefits from the small user to the large user. Now, what is your target market? Is it more LPs?
Well, to be honest with you, I think it's across the board. We're seeing global markets really pick up as well in crazy places like South Africa and Switzerland and Europe, and places I wouldn't expect to be gigantic cannabis havens, but they are. But here in the U.S. or North America, really, it's Canada has large LPs that tend to be corporate in nature, so they have a financial market, they have backing, they might have equity, but they have plenty of financing to do large-scale facilities. So I'd say my corporate customer in Canada tends to be a very large-scale, 50,000, 100,000 square feet kind of facilities. In the U.S., they tend to be more in number, but much smaller scale. So a grower in Oklahoma would put up 7,000, 10,000 square feet in comparison. So I have a lot more customers in the U.S., but in Canada I have really large customers. So I think that's kind of the mix. And it all comes down to the financials for all of them. If you can produce at $125 to $175 a pound for output, it's 30 cents a gram. So it's a really low number.
That is.
So that lets you be very competitive operationally. And then you've got so much bandwidth between you and your sales price, now you have a big margin that you can reinvest. And most of my customers are turning it back through, but that's only going to work until they get up to scale. Then it's going to be profitability.
Yeah, definitely. But this is definitely allowing them to reach profitability a lot faster than later.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned this, or we talked about it, but the typical turn time for us is break even in 2 to 3 harvests. So in 16 to 24 weeks, you already recouped all your investment, and then it's all pure upside from there.
Incredible. Phil.
Appreciate
Super fantastic.
Thanks so much for the conversation.
Super fantastic. Guys, it's Lester from Cannabis Wiki. You want to see more, check out Cannabis Wiki. A lot of videos. Phil, AessenseGrows, super system. I think you can't go wrong. It's definitely going to get more yield. Your employees are going to be able to work more efficiently. Definitely a good thing. Check out www.cannabis.wiki to see this video, to see Phil, to see myself. Phil, where can they find you online?
At www.EssenseGrows.com.
Excellent.